moving money quickly, efficiently, and securely across 160 countries. Give us a call at 465-3325 in St. Kitts or 469-3325 in Nevis. Opening hours Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 8:30 in Nevis, and on Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. RIA Easy Money Transfer Limited.
Back to school shouldn't meet you unprepared. St. Kitts Credit Union's Back to School Loan helps you borrow up to $10,000 with flexible repayment plans, fast approval, supportive terms. Invest in your child's future with confidence, because every child deserves a strong start. Start today at www.skccu.com or call 465-2272. SKCU, invested in their future with you.
Hey, Webmaster here. I stay connected to Freedom with the Freedom SKN app. Simply search for the Freedom app in the Android's Play Store or the Apple's App Store and download it. Enjoy world-class radio at its best, anytime, anywhere. Become a Freedom apper today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping that you are having a beautiful afternoon. It is 1:44 p.m. in St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, this weekend reminded us that we are indeed in the hurricane season. We had a lot of rain, serious, heavy rain. But you know, the good thing is we still had CPL cricket at Warner Park. I was there, man. That was a great game. The Patriots versus TKR. And what it speaks to about Warner Park is the fact that those engineers are just world class. It's world class drainage system at the park, and I have been there several times. You have a heavy shower, and let me tell you, half an hour's time we are back in cricket. But I'm also glad for the rains because one, I wanted the rain for my orchard, for my plants, and I'm very happy for the rain. In fact, I need some more rain for my cistern. You are listening to Freedom FM 106.5. This is Issues with your host, Coach Adrian. And as usual, it's always great to have you on my show. As usual, allow me to just reach out before we introduce the topic. I want to thank you, my listeners, because you have changed your routine after we rescheduled from Thursday to Mondays. I'm very glad that you do. For some of you, all this was not convenient, but look, you give me so much support, and that's so much love when you do those kind of things. And I want to thank the number of people. There are people who helped me in my research. There is my friend from St. Lucia, who I call my research officer, Mr. Satney, and I'm so happy. I'm so grateful, Satney, for the work that you do. I want to let you know that if you have any information that you think can help us, can help me, as I try to make the research content of this program excellent, you can send to me via my WhatsApp, 668-9752, or you can email me at peter@goadrians.com. And I would be very happy because I don't know everything. We have said that over and over. And if you can help make this program magnificent, I am so happy. So again, I want to thank you for rescheduling so that you can be with us on Mondays from 1:30 to 3 p.m. And so far, despite the holidays, we have been having a less interrupted conversation. Now, it has been 3 months since we talked about the economic uncertainty and what I call the global turbulence that are the direct result of what I call the U.S.-triggered global trade war. It's about 3 months we have not been speaking, but I have been doing my research. In fact, I have done a lot of research, and next week I want to launch a series of discussions where we can look at those developments in more detail and in a practical way, how this thing impact on St. Kitts, and how it's likely to impact on St. Kitts, or how it's already impacting on St. Kitts, on the Caribbean and food countries. Already businesses are, and I want to thank those businesses in St. Kitts. There are a number of business houses that they accommodate me when I'm doing my research. Sometimes I go to them. I don't make an appointment, but they seem to love Peter. So they would even be tolerant, and they give me great information. I want to thank the wholesalers, those who in distribution, those particularly the people in wholesale and retail. I want to thank them for their cooperation and for the information. I want to make sure that when we come here and I give you information, it's practical information. It is not just textbook stuff. It is actually things that are impacting the people. That is what we are talking about. So already from those information, we see businesses are already beginning to feel the effects that is on their buying price, and consumers are already paying to some extent for the sweeping trade imports which America established. They are paying, of course, how they are paying for that? With their pocketbooks. Although from my research, it seems to indicate, now I only say suggest, it is suggesting to me that the price hikes that we see at supermarkets, they are not simply as a result of the development in the global market. I think a lot of that has to do with markups and profit margins. But later on, when we go into the series, I'll be able to speak in a more empirical way about that. Now, here is how I want to proceed this afternoon. I want to update you on the developments, because it's 3 months, we haven't said anything. I want to update you on the developments in international trade and the related international politics. If we have time, I think we're going to have time, but if we have time, and even if we don't have the time, next week, wherever I stop, I continue. That's the key thing. And that is why I am not going to rush you if you call. I'm not going to be frantic that you're taking my time. No. Because wherever, my new policy now is, wherever I stop, I continue next week. God bless. Okay. So we'll begin to discuss the impact on the trade developments on businesses and consumers. And to a large extent, we are going to zero on St. Kitts. But I can tell you, zeroing on St. Kitts for me, it's not easy. I'll tell you why it's not easy. It's very easy to get data, to get information on the global economy. It is easy to get data on the U.S. economy. And to some extent, on larger CARICOM territories like Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad. You know, those countries have a tremendous respect for data, for information, and those, I suppose because they are campus territories, because the campus being there, it pressures them to develop their databases because there are so many calls that will be made on them. But getting it in St. Kitts and, say, even in the Windward Islands or Leeward Islands, those are very difficult because the databases, I mean, the whole system of data collection and the whole system of managing the data, collating data, and publishing data, those are very slow. All right, they are very slow. So let's begin. Let's begin with the trade war update and the implication. If you recall, on the 2nd of April, the new U.S. administration broke from what I call 100 years of politics of benevolence. That day was declared Liberation Day. It imposed sweeping punitive tariffs on all trading countries, that is, all U.S. trading partners, and also launched what I call a hegemonic, now that's a powerful, that's a ideological, political term, and launched a hegemonic war against China. And that is over the control, what I call, of the world economy. Now, next week when we go into those things and we look at the empirics, we'll be able to speak more detail, but that is just a sweeping statement. Since then, the global trade war has intensified. April, so we're talking about May, June, July, August. That's where we are. That is 4 months. And it has really intensified very quickly, yes. People are doing things very quickly up there. Yeah. They are doing things very quickly, very, very quickly. The fight for global power is now between the United States and what is called the BRICS Plus. BRICS Plus. BRICK Plus. Now, BRICS have come together to increase their influence in what we can call the emerging new global order. The acronym BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, since January, there have been 5 new members, and very powerful members: Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. That is why the new term in international politics and international trade is BRICS Plus, BRICKS, caps, and then the plus sign. You know, that is how the literature put it. That's how they discuss them. Okay. Now, it is important for us to note the membership of BRICS. And it's important for us to note them because then we get a sense of how much leverage this association or this movement or this force bring to bear on global politics and global economics. Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, as you know, they are all oil-rich countries, powerful. These are rich countries. You cannot touch them. They are rich, particularly Saudi Arabia and UAE. I hope that before I die, I will visit UAE. Yes, I need to, because UAE, for all this sporting arena, they are the best. I need to go there. These countries are among the world's leading producers, and they hold significant oil reserve. Now, oil is power. Oil is power. And you'll see later on why oil is power. And America thinks that oil is power. A lot of American decision, in fact, has been and continue to be around oil. Saudi Arabia is a key player in OPEC. That is critical. That is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Now remember, OPEC is not a little boy. OPEC plays a crucial role in regulating supply, oil supply, and oil price. This is one of the most powerful cartels in the world, and you cannot touch them. If they decide to increase supply, they do it. If they decide that they want to spike price and to cut down production, there is nothing you can do about that. Now, there is no umpire to handle that. It has been so from the time I was growing up. I hate, and it's more so. The other imperialist, or what I call capitalist powers, that is outside of the BRICS, they are either in the process of taking sides, or they are near closing ranks with the two, what I call the two fighting groups. That is the US on one side and the BRICS Plus on the other side. And of course, that includes Canada and the European Union. So we need to understand talk a little bit about them. Okay, and the other thing, we will spend a lot of time talking about the Caribbean and St. Kitts. We'll talk a lot of time. That's why next week I am beginning the series. We got to spend time on St. Kitts. Spend time on St. Kitts. Spend time on government policies on St. Kitts, how they're responding to this thing, how the businesses are responding, how the people are responding. So don't get impatient. Let's just look at the economic side of the BRICS as a group, with the addition, of course, as I've said, of Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. That is significant. In fact, that's a combined GDP of 28 trillion. Now, these numbers, I don't even know what to be. I did mathematics at school, at university, and whatever. When you pass million, I don't really understand what that is. I understand 100, I understand 1,000, I understand million. But when you say billion and you say trillion, I have never seen $1 billion. I've never seen $1 million. I'm a poor man, I don't know that. So maybe you know this thing. So we are talking about GDP, combined GDP of 28 trillion. That's important to note that. The new BRICS is projected to command about 41% of global GDP by the end of 2025. In other words, the point that I am trying to make here and trying to establish before we begin to talk and before we open the phone line is that we are talking about a fight between people of heft, people of straw. What about Canada? Well, Canada has never been a major player in international politics. That's what I know. I always know Canada to be nice and sweet and this. And in fact, Canada is like Australia, a place that is beautiful. You have to go and enjoy yourself. They're not involved in fighting and this and that. And when people are misbehaving, they're not involved in that. I remember, now I know I'm going off, but I remember when I first went to Canada, on Air Canada, I noticed that the hostess did something, and I was so shocked. First of all, on the flight, it's very quiet and very decorum. A mother had a child, and the child was, I would say, slightly being a child. Well, she came around and she said, "Stop the child." She said, "Control him, control." It was a girl. "Control her because she's disturbing." I say, what? But this is what I mean. For those of us, we have strong link with Canada. You know where I'm coming from. The whole issue of discipline, the whole issue of niceness and beauty. And it's magnificent. You go to Toronto, you go to Quebec, I never go to Quebec, but Ontario, beautiful, beautiful, exquisite place, beautiful, beautiful. Canada has approximately 2.3 trillion in GDP, and that is as at the second quarter of this year. And Canada is the 9th largest economy in the world. That is, if we are comparing single economies. What about the European Union? The European Union, commonly called the EU, and you would know a lot about the EU because, you know that when the UK, United Kingdom, came out of UK through what we call the Brexit, that was a long, long time global knowledge. So people know that. And the European Union has the world's second largest economy. So as a group, They have the world's second largest economy. I'm not even sure of that now, because now that we have spoken about the BRICS, about the BRICS has 28 trillion. The European Union has 20 trillion. So I'm going to just put the picture to you. So that is, in a sense, as the new groups are being formed, the heft of the group, of course, that changes. But the European Union, with the 27 members together, as at the second quarter of 2025, was estimated at a GDP, gross domestic product, of, in dollar value, 20 trillion. And the EU is estimated or rank to have 1/6 of the global economy. Now, the EU members, I could just run through them. They are Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Republic of Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta. I remember, I know when Malta became a member. Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovenia, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden. So it's a very powerful, it's large, and it's a very powerful area. And we need to know it. Those who don't know it, I would recommend that you find about them, because they are very critical for St. Kitts, because we call them, and we call that is where we have access to the SKN zone. That's very, very important, because you know that the citizenship by investment is one of the products that we sell. And one of the attractiveness of our citizenship by investment is that those applicants, of those people who become citizens, and just like us who are also citizens, we get access to all these countries without a visa. Now, these are little things that you need to know that makes the country attractive and so on. So that, in a sense, St. Kitts does not really stand alone. And more than that, we have to be careful. Sometimes we forget, and sometimes politics make us forget these things. St. Kitts is a first world economy. St. Kitts is a first world economy. St. Kitts graduated from a middle-income economy to be a first world economy during the tenure of Prime Minister Douglas. And forget about whether it is Douglas or this and that. It graduated, and that's the point. That is the point. It's a first world economy. And therefore, that is the kind of network that it finds itself in. It is categorized with the rich countries of the world. And that has its benefit, and it also has its disadvantage, because it means the same rule that govern those rich countries, St. Kitts, it would govern St. Kitts the same way. So meaning that, for example, later on when we go into the series and we'll discuss about debt and financing and raising money and capital and so on and investment, I'm going to stay on that and speak in more detail on that. Now, but just quickly to say, one disadvantage is St. Kitts does not enjoy the same access that, say, St. Lucia or St. Vincent or Grenada enjoy in the rest of the world. You say, Peter, what are you talking about? Basically, what I am saying is that when it comes to grants or soft financing, soft capital, and we have to be careful that sometimes we speak of government as if government has a money tree, as if they have a money tree that they shake and you can get. That's not how it goes. Just like your household doesn't have a money tree. So when these countries like St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, and they can get access to large grants. Oh yes, they can get from Europe, so we have to be careful how we say we can get from America, because we are going to that next week, because America don't give money anymore. But however, we'll go into that next week. But so they can get grant fund, and they can use that for them to buffer the deficit on the budget and whatever. Some of them can, whether they have to beg for it or whatever, or fill all kind of papers sometimes as much papers to fill in a library. But the fact is that they get. So St. Kitts can get a few grants, but not like them. Now, secondly, we're going to come back and talk more on that. When it comes to soft capital, St. Kitts cannot get that like them. And when we say soft capital, what we really mean? We mean getting access to... Now, when we talk of a loan is like you buying money. Money is an asset. Somebody is selling money, just like the bank is selling money, and you go and you buy it. And you buy it at a price. The price is called the interest rate. Okay, so St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, they would get conditions, that is loan conditions or conditionalities that are softer, that are lower than St. Kitts, because of the nature of how the economy is classified. But when St. Kitts wants to borrow on the international market, it is going most likely, or in a lot of cases, it is going, that is not to say that St. Kitts can negotiate. But of course, in the Caribbean, we have very little capacity to negotiate. We are price takers. We'll come to that. St. Kitts will have to pay, to a large extent, commercial rates. And that is why you see Caribbean countries or countries that are enjoy those high privileges, they normally have a lot of budget difficulties. They have budget. At budget time, it's not easy for them, because while those little countries I mentioned down there, and when I say little, I'm talking about economic heft. I'm not talking about physical size, because I'm from St. Lucia. I'm not saying that St. Lucia is far, far, far bigger than St. Kitts. That's not the point we're talking about. We're talking about heft. We're talking about a dollar value, GDP, or whatever. What are we talking about? Good. So they would not have the kind of room that the government of St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent, for example, would have when they are doing their budget, because they can always turn back and say, okay, we already have one line to finance our deficit. That is, we're expecting so much grant. Now, that is not to say that St. Kitts don't get grants, but we're talking about volume. All right. So you are tuned to Issues with Coach Adrian, and this is Freedom FM 106.5, and we boast that we are world-class radio at its best. Now, I am deliberately going to open the line now. And then, of course, I continue. I'm going to open the line. We're going to take a little time pause for advertisement. And when we come back, I'm going to open the line. I want you to share in the discussion. We have not spoken for some time. We have not been on that trade matter for 3 months. Come on, guys, you got to talk to me. You got to teach me. Ask your questions. I want you to express your frustration, of course, respectfully. We want to get your opinion. That's important. Now, after we open the line, we are going to speak a little about the arithmetic of global trade. And from that, we go down, and then we go into the Caribbean impact. Let's pause for some advertising.
Hey, Webmaster here. I stay connected to Freedom with the Freedom SKN app. Simply search for the Freedom app in the Android's Play Store or the Apple's App Store and download it. Enjoy world-class radio at its best, anytime, anywhere. Become a Freedom apper today.
Reliable, dependable, Delta. If you live here in St. Kitts and your tank on E, there's only one place that you should be. Baby driving in Nevis, and you need some fuel. Go straight to Delta. Don't be a fool. Get your cooking gas fast. All petroleum needs ULSD. Everyone in the region is shouting, go Delta. Premium gasoline in a fully stocked C-store. So there's only one place you should be. Delta Petroleum, baby.
From the pitch to the palm of your hand, Betgage Sports brings to you iGaming, the ultimate dual gaming experience. Sports and iGaming in one powerful platform, live and legal. Tap your screen, place a bet, spin the reels, cash out fast. No delays, pure excitement. BetCageSports.com. Download the app and sign up today. Play responsibly. Must be 21 and over. Proud sponsor of Cricket West Indies, where a percentage of every dollar played with Cage goes to Windies for cricket and cricket development. RIA Easy Money Transfer Limited, located on West Independence Square Street, Bastyr, St. Kitts, and the Solomon Arcade, Nevis, offers you safe and reliable transfers at great low rates and fees to 507,000 locations worldwide, with a pickup time of just 15 minutes after your transfer. And for even more ease of doing business, we home deliver and direct bank deposits in selected countries. So if anytime you want to send money to family, friends, and loved ones, at RIA, we've got you covered with over 30 years of experience moving money quickly, efficiently, and securely across 160 countries. Give us a call at 465-3325 in St. Kitts or 469-3325 in Nevis. Opening hours Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 8:30 in Nevis, and on Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. RIA Easy Money Transfer Limited.
Back to school shouldn't meet you unprepared. St. Kitts Credit Union's Back to School Loan helps you borrow up to $10,000 with flexible repayment plans, fast approval, supportive terms. Invest in your child's future with confidence, because every child deserves a strong start. Start today at www.skccu.com or call 465-2272. SKCU, invested in their future with you.
Hey, Webmaster here. I stay connected to Freedom with the Freedom SKN app. Simply search for the Freedom app in the Android's Play Store or the Apple's App Store and download it. Enjoy world-class radio at its best, anytime, anywhere. Become a Freedom apper today.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back. We are talking about the global trade war, and we are looking at the implication on that trade war, on international politics, international trade, and particularly food countries. We are opening the line now. The number to call is 662-1065, 465-6474, or 465-0546. The numbers are 662-1065, 465-6474, or 465-0546. So let's look at what I call the arithmetic of global power. Now, please note that when we are comparing individual countries, if you are comparing individual countries, the United States has the largest economy in the world. That is, if you are comparing country with country. And that is a GDP approximately $40 trillion. $40 trillion. And remember, we said that the BRICS together, that is the BRICS plus 28 million, and the EU 28 trillion, in GDP, and the EU 20 trillion. That is if you are looking them as a group. But if you are comparing them as single countries, single economies, America is the largest economy in the world. But the U.S. is positioning itself. What is happening now is the U.S. is positioning herself against the major hegemonic powers in the world. So that as collectively, that is if you put the EU together and the BRICS together and all the others who have not joined, but just the EU together and the BRICS together, collectively they are bigger and wealthier than the United States of America. And of course, and the partitioning have not stopped. Seems to be happening in the global economy or in the international politics is that America seems to be more and more decoupling itself from the network of the global economy as a system. And America, in a sense, like one person said, one economist said, is kind of isolating itself from the rest of the economy. So it is becoming an issue of America on one side and those on the other side. Most of them are either, as I said, negotiating or near closing deals, or some of them are still on the fence. Moreover, Russia is a major global power with significant natural resources. But of course, when we speak of Russia, as I left before I came here, looked at Al Jazeera, it dampens your spirit, and you forget about all those natural resources and all those power and military might that it has and whatever, because it's rather devastating. And just before I left on Al Jazeera, they had just bombed Ukraine, and you're bombing defenseless people. And it is terrible. You cannot look at your TV these days. If it is not in Palestine, in the Middle East, it is over in Ukraine. And you wonder, how can this be happening? And people just stand by and they're doing nothing. And they say nothing. Well, that is not true, because a lot of people all over the world are marching, and they are rebelling, and they are shouting, and they are agitating, and they want a stop to this thing. But when I said a lot of people, I'm talking about the leaders. The leadership of the world does not seem, the people are, of course, they are doing a lot, and even right inside of Israel. But the thing is, we're talking about the leaders. A country speaks through its leader. That's very, very important. China is, as we know, widely considered as the workshop of the world. Now, it is said that, and that is correct, that China is so linked with the rest of the world. Many sections of the world, it will be very, very difficult to delink themselves from China. So when you're talking about the hegemony, you have to be careful. That is, in some cases, almost impossible to delink certain sections, major economies from China. That can't happen, because China's politics have worked out its way, and its investment and whatever. And sometimes we forget, from earlier clock, Germany had always been the workshop for China. But China is investing all over, the Caribbean, Central, South America, particularly in Africa. You just can't touch China. If China dies, the world dies with it. That's the point. If China dies, the world dies with it. So it's always important that that the Chinese economy has a lot of locomotion. That's important. So, and that is due, of course, to its dominant position in global manufacturing and export. Of course, China's reputation stems from the fact that the massive industrial capacity that it has in the production of manufactured goods. Almost everything you touch is made in China. and if you really want to check it out, in tourism, it is so comical in tourism that if you go to Antigua and you buy a cup, and the cup has the Antiguan flag or whatever prominent place in Antigua, and then it has Antigua. At the bottom is made in China. That same cup, you go to St. Lucia, you get that cup. That cup has maybe the pitons or the flag of St. Lucia or whatever, or the Sulphur Springs, and it has the name St. Lucia at the bottom, made in China. What's the point I'm making here? In the Caribbean tourism, a lot of the dollar, the tourism dollar, is not. We don't get as much tourism dollar from the travelers, because we are basically, to a large extent, selling the same thing. We are selling the same thing, the same cup with a different flag, the same cup with a different mountain or historical place. But the point that I was making with China, all of them made in China. And that's not different. I mean, that is what the new administration is trying to address in America. So it's going to be made in America. But if you go to America, even now, because it's going to take years and years for that to ever happen. And I don't believe that will ever happen. Look, you buy your stuff, whatever, made in China. And if this stuff, if that supply chain stops, the economy goes into low gear. It goes into low gear. So while China's role as the world factory has evolved, it continues to be a major force in global trade and global production. Now, let's just talk about the latest trade moves, the latest U.S. trade moves. On the 3rd of July, 2025, the White House released new tariff rates for 92 countries. The rates, of course, modified the April 2 Liberation Day tariffs. And I'm just pulling a few highlights from it, just a few, based on the discussion that we are having. The order states that goods imported from every nation on earth, and I like that. I'm reading that deliberately because this sounds so prophetic. I don't understand. And actually reading it, it says the order states that goods imported from every nation on earth will be subject to a 10% tariff, except for goods from the 92 countries. What is that? That's now to the ordinary people that seems okay. That's a matter of style of writing, and that is a style of whatever. It's not. This sounds so profound. Every nation on earth. So, which suggests to some extent, America is trying to control every nation on earth. That's just my view. The highest tariff is on goods from Syria, which will be taxed 41%. And now, when I say that, that is in the modified, but later on you'll see that the accumulated can be more than that, the 41. Goods from the European Union will get an additional 15% tariff. Now, tariff on Brazil, India, and China. Now, notice they will add up to 50%, 50%, and 55%. What is the point that I'm making here? America has warned that BRICS is anti-American sentiment. It's anti-American policy. So BRICS, in a sense, is an axis of evil. The BRICS is an axis of evil. And America and the new administration have threatened any country that joins with or are sympathetic with the BRICS, they will be punished with punitive tariff. And they did hold on to the threat when they added new tariff on India. So that is the whole thing. So that is why I said from the beginning that the whole international trade conflict has, in a sense, created two blocks. The United States on one side and the emerging BRICS on the other side. That is the old BRICS that we mentioned, and of course the new BRICS, the new addition, that is those oil-rich countries, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the rest of them, the UAE. Now, what is the impact of the trade war on the rest of the world? And that is my research led me to an exercise. There are some economists who have, now there are different kinds of economists, and let me just explain that. When you say you're an economist, you have to be careful that people believe that, okay, he's an economist and he knows everything. That's not true. Economics has several branches. In my area, is development economics. Now, that does not mean you do not know something about the other branches. But, for example, people in Trinidad or Guyana, because they have oil, they would train themselves in the area of oil or petroleum economics. So you can go and specialize in petroleum economics. Now, people who are, say, like people in Central and South America, Central America, they are heavy into agriculture. So people will specialize in agricultural economics. Now, when you study economics, you dabble in all those little areas, and then, like me, I specialize in development issues. That is the growth and unfolding and stages of countries and how countries make policy and how the policy impact and whatever and things like that. Now, there is what you call quantitative economics. For example, people may choose to study financial economics, or they may choose to just dive into business economics. So there are different areas of economics. Now, those people who do forecasting, that is, they spend their time for them to look at historical patterns in countries, and then for them, whether it's by sector or the entire gamut, and then they are going to develop models, if you want, so that they can forecast what is likely to be for the next year, for the next 3 years, the next 4 years, the next 5 years, and so on. So these people, they do a lot of what we call modeling exercises. But of course, the modeling exercise is informed by the historical trend. So they will look at, say, St. Kitts, what have happened to St. Kitts in the last 30 years. Let us say, if they are looking at, say, government revenue. They look at what has been the pattern over 30 years, over 20 years, and then they look what is happening. What is likely to happen down the road, how the new economy or the world economy is impacting on St. Kitts, and then they can begin to make the assumptions and then begin to do the arithmetic. The modeling is arithmetic. They're doing arithmetic, okay? But the arithmetic has to be informed by some kind of historical pattern. That is why you don't purely depend on the modeling or the arithmetic. You must have a balance of the historical the presence, and of course, what the model can't capture is the reality of what will happen tomorrow, what will happen next week. It's like somebody said to me in my research, he said, look, you don't know if the President of the United States will wake up today and say, look, I'm putting tariff on this one over there, I'm putting 40 on, you don't know that. So the model cannot capture that. But the fact of the model, it informs us, it helps us to have a sense, at least, what is likely to happen. Now, those economists, they did modeling exercises for the global economy, and one published in August, it shows that most economies will be losing in dollar terms. And they said in dollar terms, GDP will decrease relatively large for China. Now they can do that because China is the major player in the war. And they even went to the extent and say that it is likely to decrease by 66.9 billion. That is over the period that they analyze. For the European Union, they say 26.6 billion. For Australia and the United Kingdom, they say 0.1 billion, and 0.1 billion for Australia, and 0.07 billion for the United Kingdom. But that's just their model exercise. For New Zealand, they claim that GDP is likely to decrease by 0.2%. And they say, they work it out, they say on an average, it is going to affect so many households and whatever. They took it a little further. And they said those countries like us, like the Caribbeans, they cannot bring that into the model, because in that kind of modeling exercise, you need you need major players in the world economy, and therefore you need large players. And more importantly, take me to where I started. You need to have access to massive databases, what we call longitudinal studies. You need to have access to that. You start talking a point where, oh, and give me something, how many cars do you have registered for the year? And then you walk to the place, you walk to the IRD for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, everybody killing you, everybody pushing you around. You do it for 1 year, you do it 2 years, and you can't get it. That's not the point. We're talking about, if you, for example, and Europe is an example, the EU, the European Union, you know, you can go into the EU database and get almost anything. And not because these people have respect for data. These people, of course, remember, the British, the colonial people, England. I remember when I was doing my research, one thing that I've always respected the British for is that they keep records. They keep audit trails, so that if you are doing a study, you are doing some historical research, you're going to find a lot of records. In fact, some people say the British keep more records than they administer. And that is correct, because their records, you will get records on everything. Because I remember when I was doing my development studies, you get detailed historical records by farm managers. And this thing is not just placed in a box. It is highly regarded, properly stored. And look, there was no computer yet. So they may look dusty, but they say, this is the book for quarter so-and-so. This is the book for year and so, year so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. That is why today, in most of our countries, from that tradition, we have our archives, and from the archives you can get our information. Remember that we have opened our phone line, and the number to call is 662-1065, 465-6474, 465-0546. We are talking about the global trade war, and we are looking at the implication for the global economy. And as I said from the beginning, if we have the time, we'll begin looking at the implication for third countries like the Caribbean, St. Kitts. We'll look at businesses on businesses and consumers. But even if we don't, okay, we have one call now. If you call, we take you right away. You online, please. All right, this one got caught. So remember the number to call, 662-1065, 465-6474, 465-0546. All right, so let us continue. Now, we have said so much about the world and whatever. I think now we can talk about the Caribbean. We can talk about the Caribbean. How is the tariff impacting on the Caribbean thus far? But let's just look at the setting. Let's look at the setting. Let's look at the setting. The new modified regime that I spoke about, that was enunciated on July 3rd, 2025. It went into effect on August 7. So the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean would pay the 10% that was the similar base rate. Now, following bilateral talks, Guyana was able to influence the United States because they lobbied and they through the diplomatic thing and whatever, the negotiators. And on the 1st of August, America reduced the tariff on Guyanese export from 48% to 15%. Remember, they had placed 48% on them on Liberation Day. And of course, remember that does not affect the oil, the Exxon oil down there. No, because remember what the objective of the new administration, the objective as we outlined, we'll come back to that next week. One, to make accessible to America resources that are critical to the nation, critical to the economy, and also to make available inputs that is going to turn the country into, if you want, a major manufacturing center in the world. So they determined that oil is very important to them. The U.S. imports oil, even if the U.S. produce oil, because it produces substantial oil, yet because it consumes a lot of oil, the tariff exempted most of those suppliers of oil. So therefore, Guyana is exempted from that. Now, in the modify tariff of July 3, Trinidad got hit. Trinidad's new tariff moved from the 10% to 15%. 15%. the rest of CARICOM, including St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Grenada, name them, they still on the 10% base rate. Remember what we said. We said that under the CBI, the Caribbean Basin Initiative, all the presidents, that is not a trade arrangement, but all the presidents have never changed, if you want, the condition that they gave CARICOM, that is the English-speaking Caribbean, where all the goods that entered America, that was before the 2nd of April 2025 this year, they were exempted. They were exempted. Okay, somebody's online. You online, please, sir?
Adrian.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Yes, me catch you on my 13 call. Me call for the first time on your program, eh? You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, me call for Montserrat. Adrian, data. You believe not all data?
Hearing you very well.
Huh?
I'm not hearing you very well. Speak a little slowly.
Okay. No, me may ask you if you believe in all data.
No, I don't believe in all because some of the as we know what is statistics. There is your primary statistics. When you get when something happen, let's say something happen, or you go to the match and they have a number of people there. That's primary. You count the people. When you count and whatever, you have to collate. You have to do that. You have to do that. You have to do that. So sometimes if you don't have the primary data, you can take the data. Like in economics, we can take the data and we can make assumption and we create data.
Okay. that really has, well, let me you know how to do global trade wise. You know how to deal with the inland situation.
Yeah.
Because what we notice is that the world, to be a superpower, you both have on things that you got and so forth, and then your economical power. So you the one that will be the superpower, and then this one will be fighting for the superpower, and then that some countries now then give out some data, and so with what can actually be.
Right, you're right. And I'll speak about that. You're right. Continue. Yes, you're making a good point.
Exactly. Okay. Because never even deal with a monster. And let me tell you something. Plenty from data and information that they give out. It will reflect the ground. It look good on paper, but it will reflect what on the ground. You got the other day the governor Antoine visit Montserrat and under the farm administration. And let me tell you, we did one of the sessions. And then I'm really glad that we reached there. Because they put up some slides.
Right.
And let me tell you, if I should have left out of the room now and start to go to the different, so really see what the slides they say. Go ahead.
I know. Come on.
You communicate good?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we stand up and we say, well, look, the slides are no good. But this man is me down. And we see the governor face drop. You get me? And me not this is the information that they send me. right? And me say, listen to me, Governor. Maybe I'm on the ground and me actually go from village to village and it maybe street man. And I said, Governor, if we should take you now and we should go up the road and so forth and you will see that this and when you said no hard.
Right.
So me say, look, Governor, the only thing I can tell you now, see if you can do me premiere. And tell me, and see if you can get some money in my premier hand. You can actually even throw some stimulus for the economy, because the economy dead. Boy, the governor take one different turn, right? And he started telling me about slave shipment. I even don't know where they come from. And boy, work. Stop here and build your country because I ain't going to the government. No good job. You know what I say? Most Chechens are migrate because of the economical situation. And the government take one to and ask anybody else and he's going to give me a chance to done because me no talk his language. Agent, me say all that to say this. The money shop my base money. So the economy grow and then the X amount to surplus. No, surplus are when all needs met. You agree on that?
Yes.
But the needs, plenty needs, no matter how come you can still get surplus and economy grow. So, you know, Never come out of your program. Overseas.
Take your time, man. Take your time because when you finish, I know where you're going. I'm going to talk about it. You know, educate the people about it. I know where you're coming from.
Okay, me go jump off and you pick up and listen and me with continue.
I'm taking my notes because when you finish, I'm going to stay on it.
Yes, but me come out so we talk every time.
Okay, fine. I think the caller has raised some very good points. And let me just say something here. And that is why you would hear me, you have heard me, and some people may say, okay, Peter, think you know more than everybody. I don't know more than everybody. And I have always said that here. That's not true. There are people who know more than me, and one person can't know everything. But a man has to know what he knows, and he must know what he does not know. Now, the thing is, you have heard me question statistics produced by the World Bank. Please, you can be witness with me on that. You have heard me question statistics from the IMF. You have heard that. You have heard me question statistics from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And I'm not just doing that because I don't like them. I went to the IMF school. I work at the central bank. I'm one of the builders of central bank. I know what I'm talking about. Now, the thing is, sometimes we produce reports for producing report's sake. And that's the point that the man is making, and I'm going to take it. So you have to do a quarterly. Every quarter you have to do a report. And every year you have to do an end-of-year report. Yes, you have to do a report. But if you don't have statistics, you can always make up statistics. Now, in the case of Monstrat, it's like when I started, I said, if you don't have data, you can take the historical data and you can make an assumption and you can create data. But notice when you do that, you are saying that this is not the original data. In fact, if you do that, when the real data, the true data comes in, you have to go back and revise the data. That is why, for example, if you look at an IMF report, it would make a number of yearly projection. Now, if you look at another IMF report that is following it, say the IMF report for 2023, if you look at 2024, when you go back and look at those figures, most or all of them are changed because the real numbers come in. But let me tell you something. Yes, the last time I went to Montserrat, I know it's a little long time. I went by helicopter and so on, but I keep in touch with Montserrat, and one of the professional from Montserrat, he keeps me abreast, and he told me, and I read that too. Basically, England wants to empty Montserrat. Montserrat is so small that basically you have one constituency. And in that one constituency, all the people who are vying to have power, they are running for that one constituency. England does not want to invest in infrastructure in Montserrat because it's just not making economic sense. So they are encouraging the people to leave, go to England. But of course, you know, in the Caribbean, we have very strong sense of attachment, land attachment. Why am I saying that? I don't think there is any need for you to do assumption and to do modeling for Montserrat. You can basically go to Montserrat now and count and see what is happening. Because I remember I used to say to the governor, when I was economist at one time for St. Vincent, I said, Governor, I can stay on my bed and write the report. Say, but what you mean, Peter? I say, yes. I can stay on my bed and write the report because those countries, a lot of things don't change easily. In fact, to show you, when Cricket World Cup came in 2007, one major project changed the entire country. For example, I just read the IMF, the last IMF report for Antigua. It says that Antigua grew by 4%, but largely because of the activities when she hosted the World Cup. Now, I remember St. Kitts had the opportunity of hosting the World Cup, but they didn't host it. But the point that I am making, one major activity, one major construction, because construction has both front and back activities that are connected. Not in the case of Montserrat. You can basically go there. So if I could have done that for St. Vincent, what about Montserrat? And plus, economists have to do their quarterly, or if it is their monthly or whatever, visit. So the economists would have to visit Montserrat. And also, in Montserrat, you have the Ministry of Finance. Yes, take them. I'll come back to it, yes. You on air, please, because I'll come back to that. You on air, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Adrian.
Good afternoon, sir.
I can reflect on some of the comments you made earlier, like, for example, Canada, agriculture. Back then, Honorable Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, at this point in time of the year, the sugar workers would have given 3, 4, 5 rows of cane field to plant sorrel, pigeon peat, or whatsoever. It was so sustainable. We used to export peanuts. As much as the whole of St. Kitts was on the cane, we used to export more non-cane than, because we used to have a lot of peanuts. And the persons who used to work in the sugar industry, they was given 3, 4, 5 acres, not acres, rows to plant. For when December do come, they have money in their pockets. Are you aware that St. Kitts had a 13-week strike and we survived?
Yes,
because
that's correct.
we used to plant our soil. We land is our Lord and the fullness thereof. After Bradshaw died, everything went down the drain. He also invented the called Simaco, where farmers used to carry the produce.
When I came, Simaco was there. I came in 1991. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because when the farmers they were planting a vast amount, take them to Simaco, and then Simaco in turn would have exported them. So then they would be making a profit by the US dollars. Then the whole thing just went away. After 1980 February election, NACA was destroyed. And then come 1999, the new, not Bradshaw
philosophy labor came into being, when the new labor came to be. We were exporting hot peppers to Canada. We lose the market. Why do you think we lose the market? We didn't have to pay the freight, you know. The importers from Canada, they were paying the freight to the Monday. The cargo planes would have been coming to St. Kitts, and it was not only hot peppers they wanted. Had we been successful in producing the hot peppers, we would have been exporting X amount. You speak of the governor for the central bank, the 4th of August, 2017, a new administration was there, PLP. The governor of the central bank advised the prime minister of the day to go into agriculture. They say from St. Lucia, the St. Lucian prime minister, Alan Chastanet, advised him likewise. He ain't take that direction. Our lands have been sold. When Bradshaw was developing St. Kitts and Nevis, was the lands he was using, the prosperity of our lands. Where do you think Bradshaw would have gotten money from to pay for the land? Where do you think Bradshaw would have gotten money from to pay for lands and Nevis for Navy Jones? Where do you think Bradshaw would have gotten money from to build up the airport? Where do you think Bradshaw would have gotten money from to build the part of pier? Where do you think Bradshaw would have gotten money from to build Royal St. Kitts Hotel and sustain the country? Presently now, 300 acres of our lands was bought by our money and put in white man hand to reap the benefit out of our soil. We would not have been studying about America with a tariff, you know, because we would have been exporting to Canada and Europe. Because what would have happened, our agricultural produce would be going to Martinique and Guadeloupe and going to France, up into Europe. So the whatever tariff America put in on us now, it would have been nothing, absolutely nothing. Because we could have told them go to hell. We could have got import from Canada and Europe. I want to tell you something. This is the first time I call you, right? I want to tell you my name and I want to tell you my number. I want to spell my name slowly for you because it's a kind of name. K-O-S-H.
I want to contact you. Give it to me slowly.
K-O-S-H-R-O-Y. Tweed. T-W-E-E-D. For example, right? Presently now, I can't plant nothing at all. I mean, since 2023, Agriculture Department bring a bulldozer up here and push down. The man, I tell you the truth, right? It's over a mile in pipes. It cost me to get water on my farm. Drip lines, fencing and everything.
Give me your number. Give me your number.
668-2555. 668-2555.
I want you to take my number because I want to meet you.
You take my number, you call me. You take my number, you call me.
9752.
No, you have my number, call me.
My number 668-2557.
No, 25. My number is 668-2555. Hello?
7, all right. So
no, 2555. 35. All fives. You call me and then we continue to discuss. Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. Respect.
Thank you very much for calling. Now, you have another call? Okay. Now, this is very important, but I want to go back to but before I go back to the Monstrat case, I don't mind the program ends there because, as I said, wherever it ends, I continue next time. I ain't rushing it. I'm not rushing it. I want to just talk a little bit about the Bradshaw. I have done that on the program before. That the vision of Bradshaw, and I have read Blanchett. Blanchett wrote a very nice piece on Bradshaw, and if you have not seen that book by P.S. Blanchett, it's a beautiful piece. Well researched, it's a masterpiece, and I'm telling you, it's a masterpiece. It's a kind of piece of work that you would get a PhD for. I'm telling you, it's a good piece. Now, Bradshaw's vision that I understand, and I began studying about Bradshaw long before that. When I came here in 1991, I sought to get literature on the history of the country. And it's just very difficult, Nobody wants to give you anything. Everybody is hush, hush. Everybody hush, hush. Nobody wants to give you. But I got some stuff, and I read it. And in fact, when Observer asked me to write for them, I told Observer I don't want to write yet. I want to acquaint myself to know the people and to know the whole social milieu. and I went underground. I got from Nayapol, and it's a beautiful piece. Maybe you need to know. It's called Papa and the Power Set. Papa and the Power Set, which really sets the tone to make you understand the kind of politics that we have in St. You can contact me, I can let you come up. It's a beautiful piece. And if you are in politics, or if you are in development, you need to read that piece. Papa and the Power Set by Nayapol. Bradshaw's vision is based on the central importance of the factor that Adam Smith said the factor of production is land, labor, and capital. Land, labor, and capital. Of course, we understand why he said land, labor, capital. He didn't say technology and so on, because that was not there yet. Okay. And of course, he was pushing trade. Bradshaw's vision was land is very, very critical in the development process, in the process for development, in the process for self-determination. Now remember, Bradshaw and most of the nationalist leaders, they were coming from a philosophical standpoint. They were not just going in government for the next 5 years. These guys, that's why a number of them were poor, and they died poor. Because those were people, in a sense, who saw beyond the dollar. So Bradshaw said to him that land is one of the most important factor of production and for empowerment. So what he did now, this is very, very interesting. I don't know of any other place in the Caribbean where this was done. This was done in the continent of Africa, and I think my development studies in some of Central America. Bradshaw transformed the state. The government is, if you want, the apparatus that manages the state. In fact, technically, the state is bigger than the government. So Bradshaw turned the state into what we call in politics and political economy into a capitalist state. And what do we mean by that? Because he acquired the factor land. And he was going to use land as a vehicle for empowering and for growing the country. So, of course, we will not know very much about what maybe if Bradshaw had lived another 20 years and so, or if he had remained in power, then one would see the unfolding. But when Bradshaw passed away, of course, a different regime came in and whatever, and from since then, the vision that of Bradshaw, of course, is not necessarily articulated through the use of the factor land the same way. I think the last time I had the Excellency Sam Kondo with me. Sam is very great on that, and Sam was able to articulate this thing very well. In fact, one of these time I must bring back Sam so that we can put this thing in this whole philosophical, put that so-called economic development in its whole philosophical vision. And how labor saw it. And the last time when we did Labor Day, he spoke on this thing. Now, guys, my time has finished. And I've seen only 4 minutes before me. Now, we have a lot to discuss, and we are going to discuss it. But we are stopping here on what about the Caribbean. So when I come back, I'm going to begin with what about the Caribbean. And that's when we're going to go into the real implication. And if I do not finish that, the series that I am supposed to begin, unless I finish this one here, I'm not going to begin it. I'm not rushing it. But before I leave, I want to go back to the call of a Montserrat. It is highly unlikely that an economic report on Montserrat can be far from the reality. Why? Because Montserrat is small. In other words, the space that you are analyzing is small. You're talking about the transactional issue is also, the transactional development is also small. So in other words, the system of production, distribution, and consumption is easily tracked. You don't have to you don't have to assume anything here. So it's like here for issues, I am going to all the people in wholesale distribution and having meetings with them and so on. So I don't have to do that. But I'm doing that because of the quality that I want to bring on my program. Now, the economist, that's what the economist does for the country. They collect information on all aspects of the economy, all aspects of production, distribution, and consumption, and they collect that. They're supposed to collect that daily. They also visit the country visits. Now, I don't know if there is still an agency in Montserrat. In every one of the member territories of the ECCB, there's supposed to be an agency. Now, the agency is supposed to have capacity to collect data. So if information is produced on Montserrat that is far from the reality, it's terrible. It's terrible. In fact, I don't even know what to say about that because it makes the institution look stupid. Because basically, if you cannot deal with an economy like Montserrat, how can you deal with an economy like St. Kitts and Nevis? How? If an economy that lacks sophistication and that lack complexity, that you cannot deal with it and come to reality because you can count how many shops, you can count how many rum shops, you can count if you can't deal with that, but then then it means that you are failing miserably. And remember what I say, I'm guarded. I said, if I was not there at the meeting, I'm just going by what the caller said. I said, if this is the case, that grounded information or grounded reality is not reflected by the statistics that are collated and presented, then we are failing. I want to thank you for listening to me. I want to thank you for your participation. And we have sought to bring ourselves up to date with the trade war, and then to look at the implication. Next week, as I said, we continue. From now on, we continue. I want to thank you. You have been listening to Issues on Freedom FM 106.5. We are beaming from Sugar City, St. Kitts, and we claim and we boast that we are world-class radio at its best. So see you next Monday at 1:30, same time, same place. Thank you.
Freedom FM 106.5 FM.
Hey there,